First off, my apologies for the disheveled state. It's nothing anything needs to be worried about because it's all over now, thankfully. And 24 hours later, my brief battle of wonderful food poisoning is finally over. So, I can bring you guys and girls out there this video. Another reason I'm doing this video today is because, due to new scheduling commitments, I may not be able to get AJ's movie reviews or verses out for a day or so. So, we may have to wait until the either Sunday or Monday in order to get those out. So, that's the reason why we're doing this. Because I can guarantee I can get this video out to you guys. And I know a lot of you out there want to know what I think about Dr. Jimmy's annual All Secrets Revealed video. I'm going to tell you. And I'm going to tell you what I think about it and what I think could come of it. Now, this has nothing to do with the Cryptic Performances 1 and 2, which have already started. And that will also be your next video on Easter Sunday. So regardless, you're going to get two videos, Halloween Horror Nights videos this weekend, one after another. Why? Because I have to guarantee I have content every single day for you guys, because I make that promise to you guys. As a content owner here on Pop, I want to give you guys daily content. And if I have snafus with the schedule, I want to make sure I make up for them tenfold. And that's exactly why you're getting this video today, and you're not getting it later this week, which is when I originally was going to plan on it happening. Now, NXT and Impact, yeah, we'll see what happens with those. Hopefully I don't have to miss those. But Ashley and I will be returning with our Raw recap, our Monday Night Raw podcast. That's going to be the new steez on Tuesdays here on Pop. But we'll talk about that later. Now, let's talk about Dr. Jimmy's videos. So, this was done in technically 7 parts. The first part was a short intro to HHN 25 revealed video. And it revealed something really awesome right away. Dr. Jimmy has the most snazzy black and white fedora I have ever seen. Absolutely phenomenal. And I love this. Love this totally. Now, in this, and I'm going to break this down via video basically, he makes an announcement, something that we have never heard before, that we actually get to kind of peek behind the curtain and find out how these videos are actually made. And it's interesting because I found out that, via this video, that Dr. Jimmy made this back in February. And he also wants to correct some inaccuracies that are changed because, obviously, back in February, we still thought that our opening night was going to be September 25th. Now, obviously, when that got moved up a week, this made the February videos inaccurate, even though that it is now April, and obviously you would allow for the changes, but not for videos that had already been made. So, that being said, it's interesting because Dr. Jimmy brings up the fact that I thought this was hilarious, that Bob the Cat has cats that live around the sprung tents, kind of like how the cats that live at Disneyland. Obviously, everyone knows about the cats that live at Disneyland. Bob has cat friends around the sprung tents to tell Bob all the information, and Bob relays the information to Jimmy. I think that's brilliant. I think that's absolutely hilarious, and I think it's something that really needed to be talked about. So, that was what was mentioned in the intro. Well, let's roll into actual video, alright? So, I'm going to try to do this part by part, but obviously when we get to houses and scare zones, it becomes a little bit, like, muddled, so bear with me here. So, first off, obviously, the way I do these videos is I'm going to say my likelihood of what I think these possibly could mean, and not necessarily talking about Cryptic Performances, we'll do that tomorrow. But no, I'm actually going to talk about if these properties could possibly come to Halloween Horror Nights, whether it's 25 or whether it's into the future. But we'll talk about that as you progress in this video. So obviously the 4 previous videos that Dr. Jimmy has done, somehow, some way, something on one of those videos, sometimes more than one thing, has been proven accurate. Like in 2011, when Nevermore, the Madness of Poe, was predicted. Obviously, the Edgar Allan Poe house. And it wasn't quite as explicit and extreme as Dr. Jimmy prophesized, but the 7 Deadly Sins scare zone on Hollywood Boulevard. Now, in 2012, obviously, is the year that Dr. Jimmy made the mention that got me to Halloween Horror Nights for the first time, and that was that Penn and Teller were going to be coming to the event. Whether they were going to be designing a house, or whether they were going to be doing a show, they were going to be a part of the event. And Dr. Jimmy patterned that after his April Fool's Day video, bringing up the fact that Penn and Teller would be the icons in a, basically an apocalypso. So I thought that was really awesome. Now, in 2013, An American Werewolf in London was something that was mentioned in a video, and that was proven to be true, and thus remains to this day Sir Owen Disney's favorite Halloween Horror Nights house of all time. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, and you've only been going for a couple years. You can't really say favorite of all time. Well, yeah, I can, but I can't do like a top 25, one of those snazzy top 25s like my good friends at OU can do. No, I actually have to wait a couple more years before I can do that. So come Halloween Horror Nights 30, I'll be able to do a top 25, and I'm very happy to be able to do a top 25, and I can't wait to be able to do one. Of course, 2014, Dr. Jimmy also mentioned Dracula Untold. It was basically going to be a dual-run house. Dracula is going to be on one side, and the Dracula Untold movie is going to be on the other side. The Dracula on the one side was going to be based upon the NBC television series, which is basically hanging by a thread at the time that Dr. Jimmy did that video. And also made the mention of Mexican vampires, talking about the Lucha Libre Blue Demon house, which I'd absolutely mark out for if it actually happened in real life. But that being said, this was kind of a roundabout way to get us to our Kulbras in From Dusk Till Dawn. So yes, every single year Dr. Jimmy somehow prophesizes something that actually ends up happening, even though he does not do these videos now. He does them months before, when we're just in speculation and rumor period. So that being said, here's what Dr. Jimmy said was going to be Halloween Horror Nights 25. We're going to be getting something that we've been talking about since last year. This was going to be a retrospective year. Jack the Clown was obviously coming back. Everyone knew that. There was going to be a connection to Giggles and Gore, and I found out through Dr. Jimmy the Giggles and Gore was planned to be a trilogy, and I think that'd be super awesome if that actually happened in real life. Now, the icons of the director, the usher, the storyteller, and the caretaker would be involved with the event. Now, obviously, there was no mentioning of, like, Fear or Lady Luck at this point, but I'll mention that when we get to that, and cameos. Now, Bloody Mary's a different story. She was planned at one point, but there is a haunt outside of Cleveland, Ohio called Spooky Ranch, which has been getting the rights to the character of Bloody Mary. How you can copyright an urban legend is beyond me. I don't know how that's even legally possible, but Bobby Weiner has actually copyrighted that Bloody Mary character and has leased them out to Spooky Ranch this year, so she will not be a part of the proceedings. Now, Dr. Mary Agana is a completely original Universal Orlando creation, so that means that we could possibly still see not Bloody Mary, but still Dr. Mary Agana. There would be IPs of the classics, bring back past years' houses. Obviously, the New Line 3 of Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, and Leatherface. Insidious, American Horror Story. We're also going to get The Purge, finally going to get the house that I've been talking about for 2 years. Even Ghostbusters was planned. Plus a best-of house to tie everything together, kind of like Hallowed Past, and that was the plans back in January. But then as our story begins, Dr. Jimmy says someone either from Comcast or someone from the other side of the country decided they wanted to change these plans. So they had to start over again. And we proceeded to the next part of the video where they start talking about these surveys that I love filling out so much. I really love surveys. I love to take surveys. If anybody from Universal is watching this, and I know you do, I love taking surveys, 100%. I love being able to voice my opinion, whether it's positive or negative, about the event and about Universal in general. So these surveys basically told Universal that there was a very large contingent of the United Kingdom coming over for Halloween Horror Nights. That being said, they wanted to decide to change the event to fit this. Apparently, there is quite a large colony of British living in Kissimmee. And the greater Orlando area is one of the top 5 British cities in the United States. So they decided they want to construct the event to completely cater to the Brits. Alright? The problem was Jack. Jack's already been announced. How do you fit that? Well, apparently a while back, Cindy Kane was going to lead a new generation of icons, but that kind of got scrapped because of Fear coming into the picture. Now, these 5 icons that we all know are minions of Fear itself. Chaos, Death, Sacrifice, Legend, and Vengeance. They all have to change Jack, but you still have to remain faithful to the creation itself. But then they came up with the idea, what if Chaos has been around since the beginning of time, way before Jack the Clown? What if Jack was originally Jack the Ripper. Jokes about being from hell is what he talks about, and basically all around saying, what if Jack the Ripper literally was Jack the Clown? Now, in 2008, obviously the Ripper murders were a part of the body collectors, but one of those collectors was possessed by the spirit of chaos. Obviously the other hushed. Obviously we know this. Now, in the early 20th century, apparently the chaos spirit went into Jack, until Dr. Oddfellow killed him and stuffed him inside the Jack-in-the-Box, obviously. While Jack was in the box, the spirit of chaos was reborn in the Yorkshire Ripper, Peter Sutcliffe, in the 1970s. And we progress to part 3. Now, before the Ripper could be captured, there was one female victim who, of course, he was successful in sexually assaulting. She basically was able to escape, but she was still murdered. So, I mean, you win for a little bit, but this Final Destination death's going to catch up to you anyway. She gave birth to a son, John Bull, who apparently is a connection via Jack Bull, and Jack Bull is basically the other reincarnation of the spirit of chaos, right? Chaos went into Jack in 2000, so Jack the Clown now has the spirit of chaos. Now, when Jack got put back in the lantern, chaos went back into Jack Bull and reawoke his chaotic nature, changed his name to Jack Bull Schmidt, and became Union Jack the Clown. I think that's brilliant, by the way. He's Jack, but he's British, so Union Jack is the icon. 25th anniversary, Ghoul Britannia, the Silver Jubilee, which apparently coincides with the Queen's 25 years on the throne in 1977, when the murders originally happened. So that was our storyline. I love this idea. I love this all British idea. I think it's awesome. Some things you obviously don't mention here, but we'll get to that. Union Jack the Clown, I think that's funny as all get out. Kudos to Dr. Jimmy for coming up with that. Obviously, Jack the Clown is coming back this year. No rhyme or reason, no way around it. And the Mickey Mouse of Halloween Horror Nights that I've coined him so many times, Jack the Clown is going to make his triumphant return to Halloween Horror Nights 25. Obviously, there is rumors that he's going to be bringing the director, the usher, the caretaker, and it looks like the storyteller as well in his wake. Who knows if we're going to see anybody else. I hope, obviously, because it's me talking here, that we have Chance coming with Jack again, because obviously I'm a big mark for Chance. Everyone knows that. So let's talk about the houses. The houses in general would be The Woman in Black. The contract with Hammer Films apparently goes to Universal, and this is talking about Daniel Radcliffe's version of The Woman in Black, and not so much about the really horrible sequel, but it's going to draw from both films. Will The Woman in Black come to Halloween Horror Nights? You know what? I always said it'd be part of like an all-night die-in paranormal version. Something that me and my friend Matt, HHN Trogdor, have been kicking around for quite a while. But going to be its own separate entity as a house? I doubt it, but you never know. Hammer Films also has a connection to Dracula, and that'd be the second house of the year. Dracula, of course, this would be Christopher Lee's Dracula. And this version takes that Dracula character and sends him to modern London. So I think that's an interesting combination. Will Dracula return to Halloween Horror Nights in the future? I guarantee that happens. But I don't think it's the Hammer Films version. I do think that we see the classic Universal Monsters Dracula used back to the fullest of its capabilities somewhere down the line. Do I think it's this year? Maybe, but again, I have no way of knowing. It's just guesstimating at this point. The third house being Doctor Who. Now, you know what? There has been a lot of speculation that with the BBC being so tight-lipped and so handcuffed when it comes to trying to get anything to be used out of their properties, that Doctor Who would never come to the event. But then there was all this talk about Mike Aiello going over to the UK and everything, and a lot of people were jumping on that, and a lot of people were jumping on Hellraiser coming to the event. We'll talk about Clive Barker in just a second, actually. But still, both of these can actually be connected to Aiello's trip to the UK. But do I think that Doctor Who comes to the event? You know, it's something I know that would bring in a very core fan base. Now, granted, this is for not everyone. Not everyone really can be into Doctor Who. And at the same token, everyone can be into Doctor Who. It works for adults, works for children, depends on which version and which type of the Doctor you're looking at here. Now, granted, I'll shoot with you guys straight up, just like The Walking Dead, just like American Horror Story, I've never seen an episode of Doctor Who. I'm sorry, that's just how it works. But I've seen all the Doctor Who merchandise that they're currently selling at City Walk, and I've also seen people wearing Doctor Who merchandise in the parks. And these are people my age and older, not necessarily younger fans, although I know those do exist. People, obviously, I'll even throw up a personal reference. About 2 weeks ago, I actually saw someone in my line at work that actually had the TARDIS as their iPhone cover. So yeah, Doctor Who fans are everywhere. Could we see Doctor Who at Halloween Horror Nights? We've seen tinges of Doctor Who in the past. Obviously, the Weeping Angels definitely is something we've used before. The Gothic was definitely had a lot of Doctor Who in it. We saw the TARDIS itself, even though it wasn't officially the TARDIS, but you know it was, in An American Werewolf in London in the second to last scene in the house. I can't call it the finale because the finale is the last jump of the werewolf literally attacking you in the back alleyway off the drums, like oil drums. Yeah, that's it. Because obviously I would say the finale was the last room in Piccadilly Circus with the bus and everything, and the Bobby that blew his whistle in my face like 700 times. But no, that's not necessarily the finale, so, but that's getting ahead of myself. Doctor Who coming to the event, do I think it's going to happen? If they ever can get the rights for Doctor Who, I do think that it might happen. I think that there's a lot of red tape with Doctor Who and also with American Horror Story of two completely different types that are going to keep it away from the event. Do I think Doctor Who would do great at the event? Absolutely. Do I think it'll happen? It's hard to tell at this point. The next house being Clive Barker's Hell World. Now, obviously, Dr. Jimmy has mentioned several times that Clive Barker kind of wants to stay on the West Coast, and that makes me believe that he probably never will venture over this way. But it doesn't mean that his properties can't. And Hell World would also bring about something that my friend Brian from Orlando United would totally love, and that is the return of Pinhead, the Cenobites, and the property of Hellraiser brought back to the event in a more distinct way than being a part of an all-night die-in. I think a lot of things part of a all-night die-in need to be part of a house. Obviously, you know exactly what I mean by that. So, yeah, I think it could work, but do I think we see Hellraiser at the event? Other than Hellworld, do I think we see Hellraiser at the event? Do I think we see Pinhead, the Cenobites at the event? Yes, absolutely. Within the next 5 years, I think Hellraiser has to come to the event, because one day there's not going to be any IPs left. And there's just going to be new horror, and some new horror is terrible, and you can't really make houses out of it. I mean, obviously you can make houses out of The Conjuring and Sinister and stuff like that, but you can't really make houses out of certain horror properties. Hellraiser eventually, I think, will come to the event. I think that will happen. Do I think it's this year? We'll see. Theater of Blood, really interesting. The Vincent Price's Theater of Blood, something that may or may not be an IP. Apparently, they also have another version of it called Shakespeare, if they wanted to turn it into something that's completely original, but obviously it's based upon Theater of Blood. Now, this would be really interesting if this actually happened. I like this, basically kind of like a Shakespeare troupe that take their levels to the extreme. I really think that would be awesome. Do I think Theater of Blood will happen? Vincent Price at Halloween Horror Nights may happen someday. I think that might be a possibility. Do I think that this is going to happen? Not really, but Shakespeare does jump out at me. I think that actually would be a really cool house to go through. The next one is something I've been speculating about since November, and that is the final big horror director that could still come to the event. Obviously, we're not talking about King, because King is like Randy Savage level of like, oh my god, we're never going to get him. That's a reference to Wrestling Message Board. Sorry, I just wanted to make that. Basically, when it comes down to it, this is like high level. Like Stephen King is like on a completely different plane. Now that being said, Alfred Hitchcock has not been brought to the event yet, and it's something I've been speculating upon for a long time. And obviously, Psycho was a big part of the original years of Halloween Horror Nights. So now they're talking about a retrospective house, talking about high spots of Hitch's past, like Vertigo and Rear Window and Spellbound, Strangers on a Train. Psycho, not as big as it could be, obviously, because they've already used Norman Bates at the event before, but stuff like The Birds and Frenzy, things that not enough people know about. And the fact that Alfred Hitchcock, the art of making movies, is something that I really enjoyed seeing as a kid growing up. I would say right now that I love this house more than anything. Do I think Hitchcock comes to the event? Yes, I guarantee Hitchcock comes to the event. Do I think it's this year? I don't know at this point. I don't really know enough right now. Like, there's not enough speculation around right now to believe anything, because there's nothing really pointing me to Hitchcock. I'm just thinking it could happen because I want it to happen, I guess. Sometimes when you get into speculation, you kind of get into properties you really want to happen, so you kind of make a list of things that you want, so you try to speculate enough that if you speculate to their friends, and they tell 2 friends, and so on and so on, and maybe somebody in art and design will watch your video, and hey, next thing you know, what you want's actually going to come to the event, and then you can pat yourself on the back like Barry Horowitz, and say that you're the reason that it came to the event. Who knows if I'll ever be able to say that. The next one is actually a dual run house, the Royal Terrors, one being God Save the Queen, which is interesting. Takes place at Buckingham Palace, royal family as zombies. Obviously, that's interesting. And God Save the King if something happens to the Queen while this is going on. She is getting on in years, so anything's possible. And obviously, the house will be based upon Charles if that happens. The next one is the Bloody Tower, which is based upon the Tower of London and medieval Britain. Ghosts of kings and queens. Henry VIII and Mary I. Not really Bloody Mary, but Mary Tudor. And, gosh, she's not trademarked. Take that, Bobby Wiener, just like Dr. Jimmy says in his video. Do I see a dual run house coming? I think it's a logistics nightmare. I do think we do see another dual run house. We haven't had one since the SS Titanic in 2008. Sorry, 1998. I'm reading this wrong. Sorry. 1998's SS Titanic. Do I think it happens eventually? Possibly. Could a zombie dual run house be leading us to The Walking Dead being dual run this year if it happens to come to the event? I don't know at this point. Maybe. Let's see. So, Dr. Jimmy also mentioned that Ghoul Britannia is the Icon House. Union Jack the Clown's house. 3D Fun House. Basically, it's going to twist British pop culture. If this actually happened, number 1, it would be amazing. And number 2, it would be awesome. Yes, awesomely amazing, too. Apparently, there are going to be 4 very familiar-looking mop-top lads sawed in half by a crazy Japanese woman. Yes, Yoko will literally split up the Beatles. I laughed out loud and almost fell out of my chair when I saw that. Not gonna lie about that. James Bond, evil Teletubbies, a Wimbledon competition, basically kind of like wink-wink to Monty Python, Blue Peter, British Urban Legends, and even Simon Cowell. Do I think this house happens? No, but it gave me a nice laugh, and sometimes that's all that matters. Now, a lot of rumors about extreme houses this year, whether they're going to be upcharges or not. I've mentioned that the extreme house is custom made for the Carnage Warehouse, and maybe one of these would be if that happened. But an extreme house obviously would felicitate 2 things. Number 1, you have to pay for it. Number 2, you have to sign a waiver. I don't know how many of the actual diehards would be willing to... the diehards would be willing to do it more than the general public would, honestly. You probably get a lot shorter wait given the fact that, number 1, it's Pulse. Number 2, it's also going to be just a small niche group of people going through this. But I could be proven wrong depending on the price point. One being Ghostwatch. Apparently it's based on this mockumentary in 1992 that was on the BBC. Character called Mr. Pipes, and apparently BBC at that point banned any rebroadcast of the event for an entire decade, but apparently it still hasn't been rebroadcast to this day. There's going to be interactivity, kind of like how Legendary Truth was the last couple days of the event, and Legendary Truth being a part of the last couple days of the event is partially the reason, if Bill and Ted's not the major reason, that I'm actually going to be going back to the event after I leave after the first 3 weeks. I'm going to be going back for the last weekend of the event. So, they're also saying that if you pay a little bit more, you actually can get a video of your experience. Like, that'd be kind of cool, and I'd put it right here on the YouTube channel, but then again, who knows? It sounds cool. Do I think it'll happen? Maybe. Interactivity and Ghosts, possibly. Ghostwatch itself, doubtful. Kitchen Inferno is interesting. Obviously, we're talking about Hell's Kitchen. Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen. It's set in hell. You're tortured by a British chef who's going to curse at you. And Halloween Horror Nights has been famous for doing the 4 senses. Sight, sound, touch, and smell. For the first time, this would also take on taste. You'd have to cook your own dishes, and you'd have to eat them. Stuff like British foods, like spotted dick and jellied eels, kidney pies. Not steak and kidney pies, but just kidney pies. And it sounds outrageously amazing. Who knows if it'll happen. That's guaranteed not to happen, but it'd be fun. I love being hassled by Gordon Ramsay at Halloween Horror Nights. I think that'd be super awesome. Apparently, Dr. Jimmy doesn't know any of the house locations. Apparently, there are rumors that we possibly can get a 3rd Sprung this year. I've heard rumors about that. There's another rumor that I keep hearing about, a 2nd Parade building. I don't know anything about that. I've heard rumors about that, just little whisper speculations here and there. That's what we're doing here, speculating upon the Dr. Jimmy April Fool's Day video. That's what we're doing here. And maybe could be using partial parts of Islands of Adventure, i.e. the Carnage Warehouse. Now let's talk about the scare zones. New York will be London Fog. A Victorian era, basically, Jack will be there, obviously Union Jack, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Sherlock Holmes, Professor Moriarty, the Elephant Man, Aleister Crowley, and Dracula himself. I think that'd be awesome. I actually would like to see this. Do I think we're going to get Scare Zone in New York that has fog? Possibly. I mean, who knows at this point? I mean, we had Fire and Chaos last year. Who knows what we're going to get this year? Sting Alley returns with a group of soccer hooligans that are going to be in red and blue, obviously. That's Arsenal and Chelsea. Kind of like the Purge a little bit. And they're going to utilize the blue van. Well, they're going to paint the van, the Purge van, blue. And apparently there is this urban myth about these group called the Chelsea Smilers who would attack Arsenal fans and then literally make a smile on that face of theirs. So, yeah. And that truck may roam a bit. Do I think this happens? No, but I think it'd be entertaining. Punk rock vampires in San Francisco. Alright, that'd be super awesome. No. Do I think anything happens in San Francisco? Possibly to tie in the Disaster House, if there is anything in Disaster. Rumor has it. Who knows if it's going to be used this year? Anyone's guess. Central Park is going to have Nightmares, Night being K-N-I-G-H-T. Medieval British, Ogres, Knights of the Round Table, Robin Hood. I'd love to see, like, Robin Hood and a bow and arrow just shoot arrows randomly at people. Thought that'd be fun. Like, not real arrows, obviously, because that's a lawsuit waiting to happen, even worse than Bayou of Blood was. But, I mean, there wasn't a lawsuit, to my knowledge. But still, I mean, yeah, that's crazy, insane, but still pretty cool. Nightmares, no, but I do think medieval stuff needs to be utilized at Halloween Horror Nights somewhere down the line. I do think it will happen. Hollywood Boulevard's the biggest one for me, and that is a twisted version of British children's literature. Two bears fighting over a child's body, one wearing yellow and one wearing blue, like having a hat in red and blue, obviously talking about Winnie the Pooh versus Paddington, but not saying that. The dead children kind of look like Christopher Robin, and the children that Paddington lived with, like Bedknobs and Broomsticks, Wind in the Willows, really sticking it to Disney, basically. Peter Rabbit, Alice in Wonderland, no, but Peter Pan and Captain Hook, Evil Nanny with Umbrella, you know, Scary Poppins. The main, I don't know what a spoonful of what makes the medicine go down there. Maybe arsenic. Yeah, that'd be fun. Totally fun. Kind of like Scary Tales is what it sounds like. I don't know. I mean, it sounds awesome. It sounds super awesome. I did say a long time ago that Roald Dahl, the properties there, like Fantastic Mr. Fox, I think that they could utilize something like that, like a scare zone. I think that'd be pretty cool. It's anyone's guess if this will happen, but I do think we do get some sort of a scary tale somewhere down the line. I do think it's probably going to happen in the next couple years, if I had to guess. But that's what I'm thinking this might be. Who knows? I mean, maybe it's just like a roundabout way to say it. Apparently, J.K. Rowling has said that Diagon Alley has to be its own separate area. So it's going to be open, and there's actually going to be a scare zone in there. But what happens in Diagon stays in Diagon. So there's no Hogwarts Express, no Gringotts, nothing else like that. You're going to fill the streets with Voldemort himself, Death Eaters, and Potter creatures in that area. So it's going to be very Potter-centric, going to be really awesome. I think it sounds really cool. Do I think it ever happens? No, not at this rate. Bill and Ted returns. That's a big duh right there. And the Rocky Horror Tribute Show returns once again, which I'm not sure about. Given the fact this is an anniversary year for Rocky Horror, given the fact that I'll probably be watching Rocky Horror at AMC with all you crazy people, you crazy awesome people on Halloween or around Halloween, because that's almost a guarantee at this point, because I'll be in town anyway. I would state that maybe Rocky Horror returns, maybe it doesn't. It got a lot of backlash last year. It was really entertaining coming in and watching how many people, like what's this? I don't get this at all. This doesn't make any sense, but that's Rocky Horror. I mean, you like it or you don't like it. So yeah, that was Dr. Jimmy's video. What I take out of this, honestly, was just like that. Like, we got Hitchcock, we got Doctor Who. Hitchcock's probably the most likely to definitely happen down the line. Doctor Who probably the second most likely to happen, definitely down the line. Dracula returning, definitely down the line. I feel like Dustin Hoffman right now. Definitely down the line. No disrespect. The Woman in Black, part of a house, yes. Full House, no. Clive Barker, Pinhead, Hellraiser, Cenobites, yes, absolutely. Don't think it's going to be Hellworld. Theater of Blood, I'd love to see old school horror. I know my friend John, Psycho Massacre Films, really totally digs the Phantom of the Opera. I'd love to see that brought to the event. I think that does happen somewhere down the line. Like I said, it's so many things. The Royal Terrors would be totally fun. Yeah, it sounds like, obviously the one side is doable, which is the Bloody Tower. But God Save the Queen, yeah, I think there'd be a lot of people who might have a problem with that. Ghoul Britannia sounds amazing. I think it sounds awesome. I totally would dig that house. The Extreme Houses sound really fun, but like I said, probably not. Do I think we get an Extreme House? I don't know at this point. It just kind of depends on if there's a market for it. I do think there is one, but maybe not enough one to generate enough business to push an Extreme House. It just kind of depends at this point. So, like, the scare zones, the London fog, yeah, I could see something like that happening. Obviously, we can't do it in London itself, so we do it in New York. This is the biggest one there. The Hooligans in Sting Alley that'd be cool, but no. Punk Rock Vampires would be nice, but probably not. Nightmares in Central Park, Medieval, and anything brought into Halloween Horror Nights, I'm totally down with, but I don't think it's this year. The twisted version of the British Children's Lit on Hollywood Boulevard, I think would be super awesome. I love if they did another Scary Tales. That'd be great. I've been speculating that since November. I think that'd be cool. Maybe that is Dr. Jimmy's roundabout way to get to that, talking about British literature. He did mention Peter Pan, after all, in his latest cryptic performance, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. Diagon being used as a scare zone? No, probably not. Bill and Ted for sure. Rocky Horror, like I said, it's anyone's guess right now. So that's what we've got currently going on for Dr. Jimmy's videos. So yeah, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Still entertaining and hilarious as always. And furthermore, if you'd like to check out Dr. Jimmy and continue to watch his cryptic performances throughout this year to find out what is coming to Halloween Horror Nights 25 legitimately, you can check him out at Dockimo, D-O-C-K-I-M-O, on YouTube. You also can check out the Halloween Horror Nights official Twitter feed for Orlando that is currently manned by Art and Design, as well as the awesome Mike Aiello, and that is at Horror Nights ORL. You can check out some amazing Halloween Horror Nights forums at Horror Night Nightmares and Orlando United. And you can also check out some really awesome Halloween Horror Nights websites, also haunt sites as well, by the folks at HHN Crypt and DesigningFear.com. And if you'd like to check out some of the other Halloween Horror Nights updaters that are currently posting, just like I am, about this speculation, you can check out my friend Matt, HHN Trogdor. He'll be returning in videos very soon. The Horror Nights Updaters as a collective. Horror Nights Updaters, obviously, you can check out my friend John, Psycho Massacre Films. My friend Vic, Dr. Emma Brown 1, he'll be coming back very soon, too. My friend Neil, UKHHN, also Deadly Fear 1283, The Red Steel TV, and Mr. Horror Nights. You can also check out my friend Tristan, HHN Fan 16, Thrill Seeker Network, The Crazy Englishman, and also First Class Horror. So, that being said, I want to thank you guys and girls out there for watching. You know what to do if you want to get a hold of me. Facebook me, Owen Disney. Like me. If you want to do that, like our Facebook fan page. It is Sir Owen Disney Pop. Or if you want to search for it legitimately, it's Sir Owen Disney and Pop. You can follow me on Twitter at Sir Owen Disney. Email me if you want to talk Horror Nights with me. Disney, Universal, Wrestling. You have ideas for Versus, Sip and Snack, or the Vlog of Randomness. Or you want to become a popcaster yourself. Or you have any Q&A questions for me. You can send them to my email, SirOwenDisney@gmail.com. So, in the meantime, I want to thank you guys and girls out there for watching. And until tomorrow, boys and girls, that's all I got to say about that.